All right, let's go. We're going to hop right into part three with the value formula, right? So, again, in part one, we talked about what is value. In part two, we talked about how it's created and how we can get ourselves aligned so that we can create it, so that you can create it. And in part three, I want to talk about creating a value want match. All right. So, in order to create value, remember it has to be important to someone else, but it also has to be important to you. And that's how we create a value one match. So, what's the formula, if you will, for that? One, a person or organization has a want. Your boss, for example, has a want. And then two, you have a solution that they want. Notice that you have a solution that they want. Not that you can give them, not that you've told them, but they want it. And then three, providing that solution is in alignment with your career goals and the value you want to create in this world. Just because we know something doesn't mean it's what we want to put into this world or that it's aligned with where we are headed, right? Let's make sure that we know where we are headed and that it's aligned, and that is a part of creating a value one match. And then last but not least, and really probably even more importantly, the person or organization is willing to pay you an equitable amount for X, right? So the organization has a need, a want, a desire, a goal or objective, whichever word you want to use. You come in and you have this wonderful proposal or solution, and it's aligned with where you're headed, your goals, and what you want to leave as your legacy and what you want to produce and create in the world. And then the other person or the organization is willing to pay you an equitable amount. If they're not willing to pay you or um, recognize your contribution or you as a person, then it's not a value want match, right? All of these components have to take place in order for it to be a value want match, right? So if you are doing a lot of work at work and it doesn't have all of these things, it's not in alignment with you, your career goals, and what you want to create, it's not a value want match. You can't produce value from frustration, from lack, from not enoughness. That's You can't produce value from that place. You can do stuff from that place, but it doesn't produce value. It just kind of gets things done, right? And that goes back to where we started, I believe, in part one, where we talked about there are various levels of work, right? So yes, you can get work done. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's high value work. So what's not a value want match? Let me give you some examples. Your boss wants X and you don't know what X is. It is imperative that you understand truly what it is your boss wants to achieve. So sometimes what I might do with my boss, or even if even if I'm in a skip level, meaning my boss's boss or his boss, a quick question to ask is, what's your number one goal for the year? Your number one objective? What's the thing that keeps you up at night? Right? These are the type of questions you ask to get people talking so that you understand what they want. It is likely not enough to just have your objectives to understand what it is they want to achieve for this year and what the order of importance for achieving those things are. Okay, what else is not a value want match? Your boss wants X, but you deliver Y or an altered version. So this goes again to me saying, sometimes for those of us who are experts in our field and maybe our boss isn't, we think we know best. And I'm not saying that we don't know best. But this isn't a matter of I know best. This is a matter of creating value, right? So it's not our company. So we have to think about ourselves and the work we produce and the energy we expend to produce it as a business though. And do I want to produce things that are not going to be received well or valued? and what's the upside to doing that, and whether or not it's just my ego. Okay? And then you want X, but your boss does not deliver X, right? So you want something, whether that's a certain salary, whether that's flexibility to work from home, whatever that is, you have a want. This goes both ways. A value want match means that the want is matched on both sides, not just theirs. So then we have your boss wants X and you have a solution for X, but your boss isn't willing to pay you for X. Then we do not have a value want match. We have something that they could use, but they don't deem it important enough to pay for it, then we move on. We don't try to convince them. We don't hold out. We don't take less. Right? It's not a value want match. When we do those things, we come from a place of not enoughness, and when we do that, we undermine ourselves. And we tell other people it's okay. And then last but not least in these examples, your boss wants X and you have a solution for X. But your boss isn't willing to pay you for X. And clearly, I put that twice and that's not the example I meant to. So these slides will be available and they'll be updated to make sure you get that fifth example. Now, with that said, let me caution you that creating value is not always an equal exchange in the very moment. Right? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So for example, if you were in the process of getting a job offer from an organization, right? That's kind of an in the moment want match process. They're going to give you an offer. You're going to decide if the offer matches your values and all the things align. If it does, then we have a value want match. And that is really a great opportunity to create a value want match from the beginning. Right? When we go into scenarios where we didn't create a value want match in the very beginning, we set a precedent again for how people are to treat us or what we find acceptable, even when in reality we don't. But as women, what it tends to lend itself to is us being bitter or frustrated or upset because we find out that X, Y, or Z person is making X, Y, or Z amount more than us, but we do all the work. We're the one filling the void, right? So let's not put ourselves in those positions and take a little bit of our power back by making sure it's a value want match up front. Now, on a day-to-day basis, we create value, but this is not a process that is a tit for tat. Meaning, I don't do something for my boss and then I'm like, what are you going to give me in exchange? Right? And I'm not saying that any of you will do that, but I want to be clear that it's not that. It's, I know what it is that I want to create in this world. And I know when it's in alignment with my career goals and how I want to expand and see myself in the future. And those are the activities that I'm going to put forth during my day. Like that's going to be 80%, 70%, 70 to 80% of my work is producing value. And 30% is doing just the stuff that we have to do sometimes, right? The administrative type things, the non-value add type things, right? Those are the things that I want to focus on. If I'm spending 80% of my time on non-value add things and 30% here or there on things that add value, then I'm not going to get the result that I want. Meaning I'm not going to get recognized. My voice isn't going to be heard because people are going to see me as the person that is doing the busy work. You're really good at the busy work, but the busy work is not high value work. Okay? So make sure that you understand the concepts that I've taught in this lesson. If you have questions, come ask me in the Facebook group, right? If you have a scenario and you want to know if it's a value want match or not, you can ask it in the Facebook group. That's what it's there for, right? Because it will help you determine Do you stay in this role? Right? Is it a value want match in this role? What are you looking for in that next role? And then it'll also help you apply your time, effort, and energy so that you produce the maximum result or attract the best opportunities. And that is why creating value is important. We don't get promoted, we don't make more money just by working hard and working long hours and doing all the things. It's by creating value. And we have to know what that is in order to create it, or at least what we want to, and go find people that find what we want to create valuable. Right? And so I'll give you one last example, right? You are here because you had a need, whatever that need may be, whether it was confidence, whether it was career related, you have a want. And I have developed this program, the solution. And since you're watching it, it produces a value want match. You had a want, I had a need, it was a price, you were willing to pay my price, value want match. That's how you want to apply it in your workday, right? So with that, that is the end of this lesson. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you some tangibles to think about and some good examples so that you can go produce value at work, and it will help you grow your career and get to your career goals faster. See you later.